Well, welcome to this tutorial on animating with LodeStar. To begin, I'd like to open up an existing project, and this will help me demonstrate a variety of animations. Let's create a new page, and of course, you can create a whole new project and apply these things to your project. My objective is to animate two gears, and I know you may not be interested in gears at all, but I think this will illustrate what you need to know about animating in LodeStar, how to handle the timeline, and then some considerations. So let's create our gears, and we're going to click on the SVG editor, the Scalable Vector Graphics editor. LodeStar has a variety of objects. We'll click on this little house. And of course, for example, we have math objects. These are SVG objects or music. In our case, we'll do Raphael 2 and we'll select a gear. And we'll create a gear. There we are. We can change the color of the gear. It's selected. Now, my first issue is a really key issue, and that is I want to rotate this around its true center, but this line drawing may be a little off center, which will create a wobble in our gear. So to prevent that from happening, I'm going to select the ellipse tool and hold down the shift key and make that into a perfect circle. So there's my perfect circle. I'll change the color just so we know what's going on. I'll send it to the back. And now I'll make sure my circle is, so what I'm watching out for here is I would like the edges of these gears to be equal distance all the way around. So that might be okay. Let's go with that. And then I'll select my circle, remove the fill, and then remove the stroke. If I highlight everything, I can see we're a little off right here. So this is wider. So let's select, just move that down a little bit. We're still a little off. That might be better. That looks good. So I'll select everything and click on the G key. That groups the circle together with my gear and kind of creates a true center for us. And then I'm going to call my gear 1. Once I've created it and applied an ID, so this ID we can later programmatically change this graphic with script because we have an ID, we have some way to target this particular graphic. I'll go ahead and clone that. And I'll call this gear 2, SVG gear 2. Good. I'll save. And then I'll click on the graphic again. The overall SVG graphic has been given an ID by default, but we're going to change that to gears, and then we're going to make this 80%. So we're going to make this responsive. It'll be 80% of its parent. Now, and of course, this graphic is larger than what we see. It's about this big, which is, and it is about 80% of the window. Here's the key. This is the HTML editor. There's a little button. You can notice the little post-it note says insert, or a little tooltip says insert edit animation. Click on that. And we really have 3 things going on here. 1, if we click on the white space inside of the dotted line, we're clicking on the overall SVG graphic. If we click on a graphic like this, so this is gear 1, and we have its timeline. So this is the timeline for gear 1. We're going to change the rotate property. So we have left, top, opacity, rotate, and scale. Let's make the pivot point center. Here's the first keyframe. Notice that's red. It's black. The playhead is black, turns red. That means we're now on the second keyframe, and I'll type in 360. And we do have a bit of a wobble to this. You can kind of see that. Let's apply a rotation to the second gear. And this one I'll make minus 360. And you must hit enter. You can see that's really not very satisfactory at all. So I'll abandon this, not save. Click and edit. I'll get rid of this. I'll ungroup this. Let's go back to selecting that circle. And let's see where we're off. Okay. I'll hide that. Select both. Click on the G. Change that to gear 1. Clone. Make this gear 2. And now I want to make sure that, well, that looks pretty good. Let's trim away any excess. So we just fit to content. That's always a good practice to do, fit to content. And we'll save. Now we'll go back into the editor. We'll select, take gear 1 to the end keyframe, and we'll type in 360 and see if we, oh, look at that. Much, much better. Hit the second gear, and this time we'll make that minus 360. And of course, you can add a keyframe anywhere. So I could position this along the timeline and then click this little diamond here, which will add a keyframe. But you know you're on a keyframe by it turning red. That's really an important piece. And once you enter in a value, so now again, our values that we can change are left, top, opacity, rotate, and scale. Left, when you're dealing with an SVG sub-element, left means shifting it from the left. So 10, for example, a value of 10 would be shifting it from the left 10 pixels. If we were to apply left to the overall SVG graphic, that means a percentage of the parent of the graphic. And I think I'll demonstrate that better by choosing a different animation, but we're good. And then what I'm going to do is this little symbol here means I'm going to apply 10 iterations. So there's 10 iterations. If we check, here we have 10. Click on this, just double check, 10 iterations. We can also give our timeline an ID, and I'm going to call this rotate object, so that later we could, through script, we could apply this timeline to any object, not just this gear. The timeline itself becomes an object that we can use in a script. So we're good. And I'll click on yes, and let's preview. And the first animation is a very simple animation, but it could have been easily used in a simulation. So the first animation is an aircraft instrument, and this can be programmatically changed so that it could be part of a simulation. So here's our gears, and of course they're going to rotate 10 times. The concept of left and top is best illustrated by this animation. So let's go to that. So here it is. I'll click. Here's its timeline. Now this is the overall car. I'll select it. And left, you can see the value of left. It's changing here, which means percentage. And then we have this easing. So we can ease into an animation or ease out of it or ease in and out of it or just make it the same altogether. So in other words, so easing in is we're slow at first and we speed up. And so if we were to apply a linear, it'd be the same all the way across the timeline. So the left for the overall graphic is a percentage. For a sub-element, for an element here like this tire, left means we're shifting it. We're shifting it by, so if we had a value of 10 in left, we're shifting it from the left 10 pixels. That's different than a percentage. So sub-elements are, they're kind of a translator or shift. And then the overall SVG graphic, including images that are on your page, when we apply a left to them, we're talking about percentage. Okay. Now let's get out of that. We won't save that. And let's preview all of our animations right now and show you the variety that LodeStar can create with the animations editor. And so here we are with our instrument, as we've seen, and then our gears. Here's our car. Now here's the same animation with gears. When we click on this button, what we're doing is we're changing the rate of the animation. So we're just speeding it right up until you get dizzy. So we can control the rate of animation. In this particular animation, what we have is we have an audio file. And when we pause the audio file, we're pausing the animation. In other words, the audio file and the animation are synced together. And here we have a simple, so we're animating the foreground differently than the background. So that concludes animating with LodeStar. I hope that you gained something from this tutorial and that you have put it to great use. So until next time.